Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. Here, we want to tell a story, the most touching love story in the Qing Dynasty's imperial court. The main characters are Emperor Shunzhi and the woman he loved most in his life, Consort Dong-A. This tale is not only filled with romance and regret but also offers us a glimpse into the true emotions and complex relationships within the early Qing court. Consort Dong-A was the first royal consort in Qing history. And her story is made all the more extraordinary by Emperor Shunzhi's deep affection for her. Consort Dong-E's appearance was like a ray of light, illuminating Shunzhi's brief life and leaving an indelible mark on Qing history. So let's travel back in time together, revisit this moment in history, and see what made Consort Dong-A so charming, enough to make a powerful emperor devote his heart to her for a lifetime. Consort Dong-A was born in October 1639, during the 12th year of the Chongzhen reign in the Ming Dynasty and the 4th year of the Chongde reign in the Qing Dynasty. Her birth name was not recorded in historical texts, which is why we usually refer to her simply as Dong-A. She was a member of the plain white banner, Zhengbai banner, at the time one of the lower 5 banners in the 8-banner system. In the 5th year of Shunzhi's reign, Prince Regent Dorgan raised the plain white banner to one of the upper 3, significantly increasing its prestige. Consort Dong-E's father, Eshuo, was a hereditary warrior who had rendered numerous military services while following Emperor Huang Taiji and Dorgan in campaigns across the land. After the Qing army entered Beijing, Eshuo was ordered to march south and garrison in Suzhou and Hangzhou. It is said that Dong-A also stayed in Jiangnan with her father for several years, during which she absorbed the culture and ceremonies of the Han people. The blend of Manchu dignity with southern softness and grace made Dong-E's demeanor uniquely charming, a key reason Emperor Shunzhi fell in love with her at first sight. Information about Consort Dong-E's life before entering the palace is scarce, leaving much room for imagination. The Qing dynasty enforced a strict selection process, requiring 8-banner girls ages 13 to 16 to attend triennial selections. But Dong-A was 18 when she entered the palace, above the normal age range, a fact that, along with Shunzhi's deep affection for her, generated much controversy and discussion afterwards. Some rumors say, in a dramatic twist, Consort Dong-A might have been the wife of Shunzhi's younger brother, Berhumbagor, also rendered as Bo-Mu Bo-Guer, the Prince Xiang. The German missionary Johann Adam Schall von Bell, Tang Ruowang, mentioned in his memoirs that Emperor Shunzhi fell in love with a Manchu general's wife, causing that general to die in shame. Some modern historian, Chen Yuan, surmises that this general might have been Berhumbagor. Noting a suspicious coincidence in the timeline, his death and Dong-E's subsequent entry into the palace. However, the imperial archives state that Berhumbagor's wife was a Borjigit, a Mongol, from the Korchan tribe, the same clan as Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang, and there's no record that Berhumbagor kept a concubine. While this claim makes for a dramatic story, there's a lack of credible historical evidence. And it's much more likely a later invention or a romantic conjecture by subsequent generations. There's another view suggesting that Consort Dong-A may have been a maid who came into the palace as a dowry maid accompanying the Empress. While this theory also lacks sufficient historical evidence, it's at least more plausible than other rumors, since it was not unusual in the Qing dynasty for a palace maid to be noticed by the emperor and later raised to the rank of consort. Additionally, there's a more popular folktale stating that Consort Dong-A was actually Dong Xiaowan, one of the 8 beauties of Qinhuai. Dong Xiaowan was a native of Suzhou, whose family fell into decline, forcing her to perform along the Qinhuai River. She was proficient in the qin, zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and was quite famous in her time. Legend says that after the Qing army entered Beijing, she was brought into the palace to serve Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang, and later fell into the Emperor Shunzhi's favor and was taken into his harem. This romantic tale even brings to mind the dramatic story of Wu Sangui's rage over Chen Yuanyuan. But the historical reality is far less poetic. Dong Xiaowan was 15 years older than Shunzhi. And she died at the age of 28, in the 8th year of Shunzhi's reign, when Shunzhi was only 13 and had yet to be married. Furthermore, Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang, as a shrewd political leader, would never have allowed a renowned courtesan from Jiangnan to become a consort. This legend most likely arose because both Dong Xiaowan and consort Dong share the surname Dong. And both have ties to Jiangnan, adding to the confusion, alongside Shunzhi's deep affection for consort Dong. While there are conflicted stories about consort Dong's life before entering the palace. One fact is clear: in the 13th year of Shunzhi's reign, in 1656, she entered the palace at the age of 18 and became a consort to Emperor Shunzhi. Emperor Shunzhi's birth name was Eisen Joro Fulin, and he was born on March 15, 1638, 1 year older than consort Dong. He was the 9th son of Emperor Huang Taiji, and his mother was Bumbutai from the Korchan tribe, who is better known as Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang. Bumbutai was first honored as consort Zhuang after Huang Taiji's death, and later posthumously received the title Xiaozhuang by the Kangxi Emperor. For the ease of narration, we'll directly refer to her as Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang. In 1643, Emperor Huang Taiji died suddenly without naming a successor. At that time, he had 8 adult sons, which made a battle for the throne unavoidable. With the support of princes, including Dorgan, the 5-year-old Fulin was placed on the throne and became Emperor Shunzhi. Because he was so young, his uncle Dorgan acted as regent and held immense power, nearly equal to that of the emperor. Dorgan consolidated his power and eliminated his enemies, even needing to remind ministers not to be overly deferential toward him in order to show loyalty to the emperor instead. This made the stubborn and somewhat solitary Shunzhi feel very uneasy. In the 7th year of Shunzhi's reign, Dorgan died unexpectedly at the age of 38. And the 14-year-old Shunzhi began to rule in person. He immediately stripped Dorgan of his titles and removed him from the imperial genealogy as punishment for overstepping his power, a move that demonstrated his own resolve. In the 8th year of Shunzhi's reign, under Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang's arrangement, the 15-year-old Shunzhi married a woman from the Korchan tribe of Mongolia, a Borjigit, as his empress. This empress was Xiaozhuang's own niece, a woman who was both beautiful and clever. The marriage followed the Manchu tradition of political marriage with the Mongol tribes, a policy that had been in place since Nurhasai's time, strengthening both alliances and stability in the north. But Shunzhi didn't care much for this empress. He found her spoiled, extravagant, and fiercely jealous. In reality, his disfavor may have had more to do with the fact that this marriage was arranged by Dorgan and Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang. He resented Dorgan, and therefore he resented the marriage. After just 2 years, in the 10th year of Shunzhi's reign, the empress was degraded to quiet consort, Jingfei. Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang did not strongly object, for she already had another plan in mind. In the 11th year of Shunzhi's reign, Xiaozhuang chose another empress for him, a 13-year-old girl from the Korchan tribe, a Borjigit by birth, by the name of Alatan Kikij. She was the daughter of Churji, the son of Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang's second brother, making her Xiaozhuang's grandniece. This new empress was quiet and composed. While their relationship was not especially close, they treated each other with a courteous familiarity. Sometimes Shunzhi would even discuss harem affairs with her, and their interactions were far more comfortable than with his first empress. Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang chose her in the hopes that this new empress's youth and discretion would avoid the shortcomings of her predecessor, while preserving the tradition of Manchu-Mongol marriage. But everything changed after consort Dong entered the palace in the 13th year of Shunzhi's reign. Consort Dong was quickly raised to the rank of worthy consort, Xianfei. At that time, the Qing Dynasty's harem system was still not completely standardized. The ranks were roughly divided into empress, consort, concubine, and noble lady. To be directly made a worthy consort upon entering the palace was a clear reflection of Shunzhi's high regard for her. At the time, there was only one person in the harem with the rank of consort, the degraded quiet consort. What's more surprising is that just a month later, Consort Dong-A was further promoted to royal noble consort, Huang Guifei. In his imperial edict, Shunzhi praised her as quick-witted, kind, and spotless, without equal, implying there was no one more virtuous or pure in the palace. From then on, Consort Dong-A became known as Royal Noble Consort Dong-A. Not only was she the first royal noble consort in Qing history, but she also set multiple records. Her conferral ceremony was exceptionally grand. Emperor Shunzhi not only issued an edict to celebrate it but also proclaimed a general amnesty. In the history of the Qing Dynasty, such an honor was only previously bestowed upon Empress Nara, step-empress of Qianlong. And Consort Dong-A was the only person whose promotion was marked by a general amnesty. Emperor Shunzhi held a grand investiture ceremony for her, which was comparable in scale to that for appointing an empress, a treatment unprecedented in Qing dynasty history, reflecting Shunzhi's high regard for her. The Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang, a woman with political acumen, soon noticed Shunzhi's special affection for Consort Dong-A, fearing that his deep favoritism might undermine the balance within the imperial harem. She conferred the title of consort upon her adopted daughter, Kong Xizhen, in an attempt to divert Shunzhi's attention. Kong Xizhen was the daughter of Kong Yud, a surrendered Ming general. She was raised by Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang from a young age and held the title, Hashua Gij. She had some interaction with Emperor Shunzhi in the palace, and their relationship was somewhat close. However, before her conferment was finalized, Consort Dong-A had already been promoted to royal noble consort, quietly putting aside Kong Xizhen's plans for promotion. Some say that Kong Xizhen was already engaged before entering the palace, which may be a major reason why she was not made a consort. Tang Ruowang, Johann Adam Schall von Bell, wrote in his memoirs that Shunzhi was somewhat passionate in his affections when he was young, but after Consort Dong-A appeared, his heart belonged entirely to her. This illustrates the powerful allure that Consort Dong-A held, causing Shunzhi to lose interest in other women. Shunzhi's affection for Consort Dong-A was not just due to her physical beauty but also because of her unique demeanor. Consort Dong-A had lived in Jiangnan, was familiar with Han culture, was well-read, and wrote poetry. Shunzhi advocated for Sinicization and governing in the Chinese way, and Consort Dong-A's knowledge and refined character made him feel a deep kinship with her. Compared to the other Manchu or Mongol consorts, Consort Dong-A had much more in common with Shunzhi. She would discuss literature with him, sometimes even exchange views on state affairs. Shunzhi often felt isolated in the palace. His mother, Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang, was busy with state politics, and the other concubines did not appreciate his thoughts, but Consort Dong-A's presence was a gentle breeze that brought him warmth. Furthermore, Consort Dong-A was extremely kind and virtuous. She was careful in her behavior, always showing deference and serving Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang and the subsequent empress as if she were their maid. She also personally tended to Shunzhi's daily routines. While Shunzhi reviewed state documents in the evening, she would quietly sit by his side, organizing files without ever interfering in state affairs. She frequently encouraged him to treat the other concubines and servants with kindness, demonstrating her generosity and consideration. In both public and private, she was Shunzhi's most reliable helper. Shunzhi once wrote in a memorial that, Consort Dong-A is the most virtuous woman I have ever met, a testament to his high regard for her character. In the 14th year of Shunzhi's reign, Consort Dong-A gave birth to a son, much to Shunzhi's immense happiness. He proclaimed a general amnesty and even called the child his first son, although in reality, Shunzhi already had several princes, including the future Kangxi Emperor, Xuanye. Shunzhi's expression might reflect his view that Consort Dong-A's son was his true heir, or at least the most cherished. This made everyone in the palace realize that Consort Dong-A held a unique and unparalleled place in Shunzhi's heart. Shunzhi even chose a special name for the child, intending for him to eventually succeed the throne, but fate dealt a cruel blow, and the child died soon after birth due to poor health. After the birth, Consort Dong-A fell into poor health. Shortly afterwards, Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang fell ill as well. Without regard for her own weakness, Consort Dong-A personally went to the Nanyuan Palace to care for the Empress Dowager. The winter was cold, and her health deteriorated due to overwork, leaving a permanent ailment. Meanwhile, Empress Alaten Kikij, the subsequent empress, did not pay a visit or even send her regards, fueling Shunzhi's growing discontent with her, and further emphasizing the kindness of Consort Dong-A in contrast. In the first month of Shunzhi's 15th year, Shunzhi ordered a suspension of the empress's central palace correspondence, effectively temporarily depriving her of her imperial power. This was a clear sign he was preparing to depose the empress. During the first attempt, Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang did not strongly object. Because replacing the empress with another woman from the Korchan tribe was in keeping with the tradition of Manchu-Mongol marriage. But this time was different. Shunzhi evidently wanted to make Consort Dong-A his empress. This not only meant that the empress would no longer be from Xiaozhuang's maternal clan, but it could also undermine the delicate Manchu-Mongol alliance at a time when the dynasty was still vulnerable. Therefore, Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang strongly opposed it. And Consort Dong-A was so frightened that she knelt down to beg Shunzhi not to depose the empress. Ultimately, due to their pleas, Shunzhi relented and restored the empress's power. But in the very same month, another tragedy struck the palace. Consort Dong-E's newborn son died after just 3 months. This dealt a heavy blow to both Shunzhi and Consort Dong-A. Shunzhi posthumously conferred upon the child the title of Prince Rong of the First Rank, he Shuo Rong Qianlong, and constructed a separate mausoleum for him. The character Rong here denotes prestige and dignity, reflecting Shunzhi's deep affection for the child. But for Consort Dong-A, no amount of honor could bring back her son. After losing him, her health deteriorated, and she was unable to conceive again. While Shunzhi still favored her, her life in the palace was precarious. She never used his affection to mistreat others. Instead, she frequently encouraged Shunzhi to be kind toward other concubines and palace women. Once, when the empress fell ill, Consort Dong-A disregarded her own poor health and cared for her day and night until the empress recovered. She even cried, stating, "If I hadn't cared for Her Majesty properly, I wouldn't know what I would do." Such pressure left her both physically and mentally worn down. In August of Shunzhi's 17th year, 1660, Consort Dong-A died of an unspecified illness in Qingxian Palace at the age of 22. Consort Dong-A was in the palace for only 4 years, but left a profound imprint on Shunzhi's heart. He fell into deep grief, posthumously honoring her as empress with the title Empress Xiaoxian. Usually, there are 2 cases when the Qing dynasty would confer the title of empress after death. The first is when the principal wife died before the emperor's ascension, and the second is when the son subsequently became emperor. Consort Dong-A fell into neither of these categories, yet Shunzhi chose to confer upon her the title of empress. He even chose a posthumous title composed of 8 auspicious words and ordered high-ranking officials of the 3rd grade or above to carry her coffin. During the period of national mourning, he reviewed state documents in blue ink for 4 days, a previously unprecedented expression of reverence. It is said that after Consort Dong-E's death, Shunzhi fell into a deep depression and even wished for death, requiring ministers to keep a close watch to avoid tragedy. Not even 6 months later, in January of Shunzhi's 18th year, February 1661, 23-year-old Shunzhi passed away. Some say he chose to become a monk due to overwhelming grief. But most historians believe he died from smallpox, weakness, and sorrow. After Shunzhi's death, another concubine, a secondary wife with the surname Dong, chose to be buried with him, becoming the last woman in the Qing dynasty to be buried alongside the emperor. Some rumors say Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang held Consort Dong-E's family responsible for Shunzhi's death and wanted to punish them. But in reality, Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang was most likely fond of Consort Dong-A. Consort Dong-A was never arrogant due to the emperor's favor, but instead remained respectful and dutiful toward the Empress Dowager, and the people in the palace held her in high regard. Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang frequently chose her as a companion on outings, reflecting their close bond. So why then is there a claim that Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang hated Consort Dong-A? Some related historical experts say it's primarily because Consort Dong-E's spirit tablet was not placed in the ancestral temple, nor was a posthumous title conferred upon her by subsequent emperors. In keeping with Ming Dynasty traditions, only the principal wife of the emperor could be enshrined there or be honored with a posthumous title. Empress Dowager Xiaozhuang's decision was made to follow tradition, not to target Consort Dong-A. This was meant as a reminder to future emperors not to undermine the ancestral institutions due to their affection. Consort Dong-E's virtue and Shunzhi's deep affection for her have become a famous story in Qing Dynasty history. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.